Hi, Mickey.
Hey, Bob.
How you doing?
Pretty good, although, Rob Long was so good, my last dialogue, that
He was good.
you're going to have a hard time,
Winning your heart back?
Well,
I mean, is he going to become your regular, guy? You're going to dump him?
Well, he's very easy because you just let him talk and he entertains you. I mean,
And you're saying I don't do that?
Well, you challenged me and forced me to think. And
You're saying he can't challenge you? He's not...
I don't want to do that. You don't have to think. You just have to listen to it. Anyway, he also has this weird thing where he, I was always trained to look right at the camera and never blink, otherwise you look Dixonian and shifty.
Mm-hmm.
And he moves all around and he's emoting and grimacing.
Oh yeah, you want that. You want that. You want that.
And he's hamming it up, and it really works for him. What can I say? He made me look like a Stepford wife.
No, I know. Different people have different styles, but it all works because it's all real,
That's the genius of blogging heads. And the genius of the genius behind blogging heads.
Oh, Mickey, please.
You might actually pull this off, I'm beginning to think.
You think so?
I think it's possible.
I don't know, but it's a good time for you to say that, because you know what today is?
Don't tell me today the green is going to go away.
Well, it may. I mean, when we first post this dialogue, we will be surrounded by a sea of green, but the hope is that within hours, maybe just 1 hour or two, we will be surrounded by the redesign. Maybe, if things don't go so well, like 12 hours, 18. But the plan is more like 1 or 2.
The redesign is not the key to blogging heads feature.
No, it's not. But it's an important part for reasons I won't get into. Although I will talk a little more about the redesign toward the end of the dialogue and talk about the transition in between the two forums, the two comment systems, and that delicate period.
You know what's the key to blogging heads feature?
What?
Embedding.
I know that.
Okay.
I have said that to the to people within this very company.
Okay. Well, they get the damn code to work.
Hey, it's worked.
Which it will soon. It worked for Ann Althouse, yes.
It's worked for a number of bloggers. Let's don't get into the name of the blogger it didn't work for.
No. It hasn't worked for...
Because I'm sure it's no fault of his own.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
So anyway, cool.
It is cool. It's the reason I'm in a good mood, notwithstanding my lack of sleep. So, what do you want to talk about?
Well, let's talk about the Democrats first. You didn't want to talk about the Republicans.
No, we just had to narrow the topics down. You always flood me with topics. I said make a choice. I gave you...
But it's okay. The Republicans are debating.
And also, talking about the Republicans was just going to be another anti-immigration rant by you. And I'm, with all due respect, I've heard it.
I didn't have much to say about the Republicans. So let's talk about... And the Republicans are debating even as we speak. So let's talk about the Democrats.
Okay.
I had said that Hillary was like the Titanic in...
You said the moment... This was in your Rob Long dialogue. You said it's like the moment in the Titanic where they know the ship is going down.
No, where the guy goes up to them in the ballroom and says, "You may not believe this, but in 4 hours this ship is going to be at the bottom of the ocean."
Right.
And that's certainly the way the Hillary camp felt last week. You had some critique of that?
Well, I just don't see... You sounded so confident of it, and it seems to me a long way from the case. For starters, she, by and large... Her numbers still look strong nationwide.
Well, that's irrelevant, Bob. You know that.
Well, no. Well, first of all, it's an interesting question how irrelevant it is. What you're alluding to is momentum, right? You win Iowa, and then you have momentum.
I think the national polls are relevant to show trends, to show that Obama's gaining, or Hillary's gaining, or Edwards is gaining, because they're done the same way over time. But in terms of who's actually going to win, yes, if you win Iowa and New Hampshire, that changes the national polls. Everybody knows that. So you don't look at the national polls to see where things are going to be after Iowa and New Hampshire.
Okay, but first of all, she's a long way from having lost Iowa. They're going to have some big debate. And 3 weeks, as you know, however many it is an eternity, according to the Filer Faster thesis, which you champion.
It is all good points. It is true that her numbers in Iowa are stronger than I'd thought. For example, in the Rasmussen poll came out today, she's still ahead by a couple points. I expected her to be behind in that poll.
Well,
and there is a debate, and 3 weeks is a long time, and Obama may have peaked too soon, and the Oprah thing doesn't seem to have produced a surge. But she's already behind in New Hampshire. So New Hampshire is her firewall.
Is Obama ahead in New Hampshire or
According
Edwards?
to Rasmussen, he's ahead, yes.
Obama.
And keep in mind that New Hampshire is where independents can vote, and that's Obama's natural constituency. So you might think that he would be ahead. But to be already ahead in her firewall state is pretty pathetic. So she has to win Iowa. She knew 2 years ago that Iowa was going to be first in the nation. Why she didn't commit then, I don't know. But now she's in a place where she has to win, and it looked like Obama was surging last week. I still think she's in really bad trouble.
Okay, but
if I were to bet, I would bet chances are greater than 50% that she would lose.
A, I doubt you're right that she has to win. B, you'll also concede, I think, that if she does win, she's in pretty damn good shape because, notwithstanding New Hampshire, I mean, the dominoes are pretty well set up after that, right? I mean, if she wins one of the first two...
They're not well set up in South Carolina, where her lead has disappeared, and as we know,
she doesn't have Oprah on her side either, and some
Carolina
extremely...
has a large black vote, and the black vote is 2-1 for Obama right now.
Right. But one thing I wonder is whether Oprah actually helps Obama or the opposite in Iowa. I mean, has he kind of paraded her through Iowa?
Well, he went to all 3 states, yeah. But
I'm not sure she's not a liability in Iowa. Do you think I'm crazy?
Because of racism?
Yeah, in a certain sense, yes.
I
don't know. I don't want to put labels, but
I think that's crazy. I think the problem with Obama is I'm afraid the problem that Mark Halperin, the founder of the conventional wisdom, identified right at the start, which is his problem is he lacks experience. Obama doesn't solve that. I mean, Oprah doesn't solve that problem for Obama. Oprah compounds the problem.
Well, but also, relatedly, leaving aside whether this is racism or normal human psychology or what, I think one of his challenges is to strike a certain part of the electorate as, in a way, not especially black, You know what I mean?
Right, although Oprah strikes a certain part of the electorate as not especially black, too. But yes.
I don't think she strikes these people that way. But anyway...
but anyway, the point is that they're blacks with huge crossover appeal. And so I'm not sure that Oprah hurts him. I just don't think... it would be much better if, Walter Mondale endorsed him or something. I mean,
well, my last 2 points are... one is race-related, that I'm not sure you can trust polls as much when you have a black candidate and maybe a female candidate. I think there are voters who would not vote for a black but will not admit that to a pollster. And I also think, as you said, Obama has the big experience question to confront. They both candidates have serious weaknesses. I actually find them both pretty attractive myself. The only one I don't like at all is Edwards.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'd settle for either of them, and I'm anyone but Edwards. So I agree with you there. The weird thing is, it's now conventional wisdom. It wasn't. I think it was just a theory of Major Garrett at Fox News a few weeks ago that Hillary actually wouldn't mind if Edwards won Iowa because she thinks she can take Edwards. What she's really scared of is Obama winning Iowa. It's early. There will be a surge at some point. For somebody, I would think it could be. I would think it would be for Obama. It's hard to see how it happens for Hillary, but maybe it does. But at some point, maybe Hillary wants to throw her weight behind Edwards. I mean, this is like a crazy theory, but I always thought that at some point, she wants to lower expectations and tell her people to vote for Edwards.
Here's a maneuver I think you should see right now: is Obama asks Al Gore in private if he would like to be Secretary of State. That's kind of the one job other than president that would seem cool to Gore right now.
He ruled it out in Stockholm, didn't he?
He ruled out Secretary of State?
He ruled out any job in the new administration. I mean, he could change his mind, but...
Yeah, minds change. Anyway, let's pretend that didn't happen. Okay. I think, don't you think if Gore comes out and endorses Obama, that helps? And he doesn't like the Clintons, right?
Yes, although it was the kiss of death for Howard Dean. So.
Oh, it was?
Well, he endorsed Dean, and then Dean lost, so...
Well, it doesn't mean that was the kiss of death. I probably endorsed Dean and he lost, but I don't think anybody's, Anyway.
It didn't help Howard Dean that much. So I tend to probably endorsements don't
I don't think endorsements are that huge, but Gore is an unusual figure right now in that he's the guy who should have been president if justice had been done in the eyes of a lot of Democrats. And he just won a Nobel, prize and so on.
But his poll numbers are that good. What Oprah did for Obama is she wasted a week of time and got him a week. He sort of got him a week closer to election day while blotting out sort of Hillary.
Yeah, but if his poll numbers have gone down, according to this latest poll,
I don't think they've gone down. They just haven't surged it in the lead.
Well, I thought you said Hillary was now ahead in Iowa, and I had earlier read polls showing him ahead.
But Hillary had never been ahead in this poll. There are polls showing him ahead in Rasmussen. I don't think he'd ever been ahead.
Okay.
He just sort of is approaching her asymptotically, as opposed to surging past her. The way Huckabee is surging. Sorry, I mentioned a Republican.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right.
Anyway. The Huckabee, hey. Did David Corn break the story, or Mother Jones, at least under his stewardship, the Washington Bureau, break the story about how Huckabee won't release his sermons?
Well, I think he had told other news outlets that he wasn't releasing his sermons, but
Corn, David knows the story when he sees it.
Corn knows the story when he sees it. He had the wit to sort of push on it and get the formal denials and call the church that Huckabee spoke at and talked to the pastor who said, "Oh yeah, we lost most of those speeches in a remodeling, and you can't have the ones we still have."
Yeah. No, I know how those remodelings go. You always have a lot of document destruction, The workers just don't understand.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of remodeling around here.
Yeah, we should remodel with some of our old Dialogue videotapes lying around.
With a click of the mouse, you could remove them, Bob.
I know. Well, actually, I can't. I mean, I'm increasingly... there's a whole layer of human beings between me and actual power these days.
I know you have like dozens of people working for you. Aren't you worried about like liability and workers' comp? And I thought there were regulatory burdens on employers.
There are.
It seems to me
we have to pay them money.
Well, more than that, you have to pay workers' comp, unemployment. You have to register for X,
Y,
and Z.
Total pain. Plus, they live in different states. I don't want to start whining.
You have to hire somebody to deal with all the regulation, and then you have to pay unemployment to the person you hired.
This is why people become Republicans, Mickey. But it's not going to happen to me. Do you want to talk about Iran?
Yeah.
So you wanted to talk about the various explanations for why this...
first there are two...
This is a national intelligence estimate saying that, as it happens, maybe Iran is not actually working on a nuclear weapons program per se, as had previously been thought. And you have theories about why this report came out?
The report says that they, with high confidence, that they stopped in 2003, with less than high confidence that they haven't restarted. There are 3 points to make. First, there are two contradictory theories about why this report was issued. One is it's this, which I heard Lawrence Korb last night at a showing of Alex Gibney's new movie.
Hey, you mean a Taxi to the Dark Side?
Taxi to the Dark Side. Anyway, he said this is the CIA standing up for itself, having been abused for too long and politicized and misused. They're standing up and sort of sticking it to Bush and saying, no, we don't think Iran has a nuclear program. The second theory, propounded by Robert Beer in Time magazine, is that, of course, this is all a setup and Bush directed them to do this because Bush has decided not to attack Iran, so he wants an NIE that sort of justifies not attacking Iran, and this shows that Bush has determined that this attacking Iran would be a bridge too far. So the one theory is Bush hates it. The other theory is Bush arranged it.
Do you want a third theory?
Sure.
They said it because it's true, and they're in the intelligence business, and generally they actually do try to say what they think is true, and this evidence was really compelling.
Oh, Bob, we can just dismiss that one out of hand.
I guess, but, I'll tell you, I read the day after the story broke, the New York Times had this piece about what it was that led them to this conclusion, and it seemed pretty damn compelling. They came across these communications of Iranian generals complaining because the weapons program had been shut down in late 2003, and they entertained the possibility that this was like a setup and they were being deceived, and they examined that possibility and were satisfied that no, this really had happened. And given that fact, what could they do but report it? I mean, especially in light of the fact that the administration had been sending people around with like a PowerPoint show asserting the opposite since 2005. They had been sending people around the world trying to convince other governments that Iran has an active nuclear weapons program to be distinguished from a civilian uranium enrichment program, which is troubling in itself. I mean, we could get into that, but still, I mean, if you're in the intelligence business and you're an honest person, and that's the background, of course you insist that this come out, and there's no way Bush could have suppressed it, given the capacity of these people to leak a story if they want to. So I think that's what happened.
Well, let's talk about what you suggested, because the long pole holding up the tent, if Iran wants the bomb, is enrichment of uranium. So the fact that they put the technical finishing touches of developing an actual bomb on hold while they deal with the tough problem, which is getting enough uranium, doesn't especially imply that they've abandoned the hope of having a bomb. And according to Amir Taheri, who is semi-reliable, they never really want to have an actual bomb. They've always been going for something called surge capacity, which is the ability to build a bomb in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Now, so it's not clear that if you wanted that you wouldn't put your nuclear program on hold. That's just going to inflame the world. So you put that on hold, you develop the uranium, and you can always start it up later.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does not mean that they have abandoned the aspiration. On the other hand, whether it drags out the timetable, I mean, how much more time it gives us, I guess, depends on what exactly you're worried about. Are you worried about them having a nuclear missile? That was never actually my chief concern. I mean, them delivering a nuclear warhead on a missile was never my chief concern, because I don't think even Ahmadinejad is that crazy. But having nuclear missiles actually could foster a regional arms race, and the more nukes there are in the area, the more trouble can happen, including the kind of trouble I'm actually mainly concerned about, which is terrorists getting a hold of them, okay?
Right.
Now, if there's still, of course, it's most dangerous if you can give a terrorist an actual bomb, which requires the military part of the program to kick in at some point. You can imagine a country just giving enriched uranium to terrorists, which would be super spooky, but that seems to me more like a North Korean thing. That's what you do if you're like cash starved and you don't care. You know that one thing you know is the terrorists aren't going to use it on your part. You're in your part of the world, and you don't care otherwise. That's a North Korean position. I don't imagine Iran selling enriched uranium or something. So, I think the weapons. I don't know how much longer it takes once you start the weapons program back up. But I think it's relevant that they abandoned it. And
wait, so what are you worried about? You're worried about them actually giving it to somebody?
Well, I'm worried about terrorist delivery of nuclear weapons much more than missiles being launched by a nation state.
Right, so how would the terrorists get a hold of it from Iran?
Well, I assume, I'm not an expert, I assume there's two things you could do. In the worst case, you give them an actual bomb,
right,
which you can't do until the military part of your program has gone some distance, I would think. But a country like North Korea, and I don't think Iran would wind up doing it, a country like North Korea, you can imagine just selling weapons-grade material.
Right.
And leaving it to the terrorists to figure out a way to turn it into a bomb. But I don't think that. My point.
So you're saying that they need an actual bomb, so the fact that they've delayed the date of an actual bomb is a good thing.
It's a good thing. I don't know how much time it gives us, but it's on balance a good thing. At the same time, the disclosure is in a certain sense unfortunate, because the sanctions are a good thing, and it would. I mean, if we wisely convert them into diplomatic progress, they're a good thing. And this disclosure makes it harder to keep the sanctions on. China especially has made noises about bailing. And so in that sense, it's unfortunate.
What about the theory which bloggers on the right immediately propounded, which is they abandoned it not because of sanctions, but because we'd invaded their neighboring country and had 150,000 troops next door on one border, and we had a whole bunch of troops on the other border, too. So there was a real military threat to them.
It's possible. I would be more persuaded of that if they had abandoned the program in early or mid-2003. According to the Times, they abandoned the program in late 2003, and by that time I think it was pretty clear we were going to have our hands full in Iraq, for quite some time. I mean, it was in August, I think, that the UN bombing happened, and things were pretty well falling apart by late 2003. It just seems odd to me that if our invasion was the precipitating factor, that they didn't abandon the program.
Well, but things take time, and I think your timeline's a little off. The key thing that put us in the hole is the Samara bombing, which didn't occur until much later.
Well, now, look, Donald Rumsfeld, I think, said long, hard slog a long time before that, and he knew what was going on.
That's true.
But I'm just saying, I would be more persuaded if they abandoned it in April, May, June, July, August, or something than in whatever late 2003 means.
Here's my theory of what's going on, which seems like so obvious that I've only seen hints of it here and there. We cut a deal with them. We said, you leave us alone in Iraq, stop sending IEDs, rein in your Shiite surrogates, and we'll let you build the bomb. It's like obvious.
Wait, you think we'd do that?
Well, then we'd let you build the bomb, but we're not going to bomb you. We're going to put out an NIE saying that we're going to take the pressure off. Going to put out an NIE saying you're not building a bomb. We're all of a sudden going to be nice to you on the bomb front. But Mickey, you were nice to me on the Iraq front.
I think you're a little too conspiracy-minded, and the way you think of what conspiracies are possible, I would take issue with. I mean, it's not like Bush could invent this claim and stick it into the intelligence system and have the report come out. There's too much leakage, okay? It has to be true at some level. I mean, this evidence, given the way the American system works and the free press and the fact that people can leak stories and so on, it has to actually be the case that there is this body of evidence that convinced them that the weapons program had been put on hold. You don't agree with that?
I think they could have come up with a different report saying there is this dissenting evidence, and we're still really worried about them. And yes, I don't think they had to reach the conclusion they did.
If you read the report, it actually has a lot of qualifications.
Right. So you could have the qualifications win the day.
Well, no, you couldn't because of the way the story plays in the press in the end. I'm just saying the information itself had to come out, and the fact that this report came out has to mean that the information is there. That's my view, but maybe I'm naive.
I think you're naive, but...
oh, come on, give me a scenario where this is like a fabrication, Mickey.
Wait,
I mean, you realize that this report represents the collective views of intelligence agencies all over the bureaucracy, right? Department of Energy, Department of State, CIA.
That just creates more room for fudging when all those things are put together. That was your point as to why this super intelligence agency shouldn't have been created in the first place, because it creates the ability to politicize 16 different views as opposed to having 16 different views judged by the public. You say, look, there's this evidence, and we discount it. We think it, we're studying it further, and all the points we've made about how it doesn't mean that they don't want to bomb. It just means that at the moment they're enriching uranium, and you could write that report, Bob, that comes to the conclusion that we still need to maintain maximum pressure, and it's a grave threat, and blah 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 blah.
Well, that's not. It's an intelligence report, not a policy directive.
Well,
it doesn't say things like we should do this or should do that.
I guarantee you, there are plenty of conservatives in the administration who could easily write that report and who actually think it. So it does seem to me it's inevitably politicized at that level.
It can be the presentation of the evidence can be politicized. I'm just saying this evidence must exist, and if it didn't exist, Bush does not have the power to fabricate it and stick it into the system.
Why is Iran behaving in terms of the IEDs and the Shiites, which they seem to be?
I don't know.
I mean, it seems to me we've done something to convince them.
Maybe so, but I don't think this is it. There's a lot of possible explanations, but I just think you're like, if you think this is part of some deal with Iran, whoa. But anyway,
well, why? It doesn't seem to me that's so far-fetched.
I know, that's what I'm shaking my head over. It doesn't seem that far-fetched to you.
It seems far-fetched to you that when we're fighting them in a war at one part and they want to develop a bomb, that we would trade those two interests off?
First of all, I think that would be a mistake, but I think that part could happen. I'm just saying that this could not be fabricated.
Well,
it could not be an invented fact, I mean, could you write the screenplay? Sure. But in the real world, is there more than a 1 in 50,000 chance that this is fabricated? No.
Fabricated? What do you mean fabricated? I'd say that they weigh the evidence, and if they wanted to reach another conclusion, they could weigh the evidence in different proportions and come to a different conclusion.
I'm just saying this fact that they found this communication, okay,
well, but they could downplay it.
That convinced them, this body of evidence that convinced them that the weapons program was shut down, okay, once they had that, once it was in the intelligence system, there was no keeping it out of the press for a long period of time.
Well, it'll be in the press, so Bush can take another press hit. He's a lame duck. What does he care?
He can take another what?
Hit in the press. He's a lame duck. If he wants to bomb Iran, there's not a hell of a lot the press can do about it.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying, never mind. I've tried to be as clear as I can about this.
Well, I don't understand.
I really don't understand what you're thinking.
Yes, it would come out in the press. So what? That doesn't mean that the books aren't cooked at the top. I mean,
I'm just saying he couldn't have cooked the books in the sense of fabricating this evidence or in the sense of suppressing it wholly without it coming out.
I'm not charging that the evidence is fabricated, Bob.
What do you think? What's your theory? Tell me your scenario.
The theory is that if they wanted to have a war with Iran, they would have discounted this evidence as opposed to giving it incredible weight.
Maybe so. All I've said is if the evidence existed, it was going to come out.
I'm saying that Bush could ignore the coming out, and he didn't have to.
Of course he could.
Well, so why am I a delusional paranoid?
I thought your theory was Bush says to the Iranians, you do what we want to do, and we'll come out with this nice report.
No,
and if you don't do what we want to do, we won't come out with it. This evidence won't surface.
No, I think he says, do what we want to do, and we will not bomb you. And what's more, we will demonstrate that we won't bomb you by making it completely obvious to everybody that we're politically incapable of bombing you, and the NIE is one way to do it. I don't think he said, if you agree to make nice, we'll fabricate some evidence that you stopped your weapons program. I think if you make nice in Iraq, we'll make nice on the bomb. That's all he said.
Yeah, but you're saying he offered to do what with respect to the intelligence report, Mickey?
No, he said he wouldn't bomb them, and this is a way of demonstrating to... I'm thinking out loud here, demonstrating to Iran that he's, throwing the steering wheel out the window and he is not going to bomb them. Because this ties his hands. It's tying his hands.
Well, all I'm saying is he did not have control over whether this evidence... He did not have the ability to fabricate this evidence, and once the evidence actually existed, he did not have the ability to suppress it. That's my only claim. If you believe something different than that, we should continue the argument next time, and if you don't, then this has been a waste of 10 minutes. But that's all I'm saying.
You seem to... Of course he couldn't suppress it, but that doesn't mean he had to reach the conclusion he reached in the NIE.
He didn't reach it in the... I mean... Now that he could conceivably control the spin of the NIE. That he could do, yeah. But the NIE turns out to have no control anyway. Because if you read the report, it doesn't lead with the lead that appeared in the newspaper. This was just the news. It said the thing it had to say. To be honest, somewhere in the report, and reporters picked it up, and that's going to be the lead story. The writing of the report, unless you suppress the evidence, does not control the spin. Because if you read the report, there is a fair amount of qualification.
No, but you wouldn't have to reach the conclusion that with a high degree of probability that they'd abandon their nuclear program. I think it's not crazy. It's not crazy and delusional to think that decision is politicized. Anyway, we've had to say.
The last thing I'll say is, if he did some kind of deal with the Iranians where he offered to control the spin of this evidence, he was exploiting their ignorance of how the American political and journalism system works. Okay, that's all I would say. And maybe
you keep saying that he offered to do something with this specific evidence. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he said, "We're not going to bomb you." And this is a way of, and we will demonstrate, we will make it very hard for us to bomb you. And
I'm just saying that part was beyond his control. It was going to come out once it was in the report, and it was going to come out if they didn't put it in the report, because somebody would have leaked it. It was going to be spun this way, because it was the news. This was the news in the report.
There's a difference.
It 100% contradicted what the administration had been saying.
This wasn't just in the report. It was the formal conclusion was that they believed this evidence.
Well, they could have buried it on page 132, and it would have led the news.
But it's different than if they reach a formal conclusion that yes, they believe it, and with a high degree of probability, Iran has abandoned their weapons program. I can't believe you don't see that difference, Bob. You've had too many cups of coffee.
Wait, say that again?
There's a difference between burying the evidence on page 103 and saying this evidence leads us to conclude with a high degree of probability using all our expertise, and this is the official conclusion that they have abandoned their program. Those are two different things. They chose the second one, and I'm saying they could have chose the first one, and it would have been different. And it still would have come out, but it would have been different.
Yeah, it might have been a little different. I actually think the way these things work, if he manipulated even the degree of consensus among the different agencies, that would have itself come out. But I'm less sure of that.
Right.
So anyway, it's gotten to the point where we're going to have to skip one of our topics, I think.
We are. I don't want to skip the videotapes because.
Okay, then do the videotapes.
Because I saw this Alex Gibney film, which is.
I've seen it. It's great. I should admit that I'm biased.
Didn't you trade grants with him at one point?
What?
Didn't you trade grants with him at one point? Isn't there a financial nexus between you and Alex Gibney?
There is a financial nexus between me and Alex Gibney.
And we're all good friends with his brother
James.
Yes. So we're biased. It's a really good film. What it doesn't do, it convinces you of a whole lot of things. It's a story of basically the torture in the Bush administration using the case of this poor taxi driver who was dragooned into Bagram Air Force Base and basically killed as a result of being beaten by our soldiers. And it turned out he was innocent, blah, blah, blah. It's a horrible case. But he uses it as a general indictment of the entire Bush administration torture apparatus. What it doesn't convince you of is that they never got any good information from these people as a result of torture. It doesn't even really try to address
it doesn't.
That issue, which is a crucial issue. Is it a trade-off?
Well, it's one crucial issue,
but information against morality, or is it like a total no-brainer that information is no good and it's inhumane and destroys our reputation? So why there's no argument for doing it at all?
Well, it's one crucial issue, but let me just say a couple of. It's the issue you're very interested in. It's one issue relevant to torture. But it wasn't high on, wasn't on that film's agenda. What the thing?
He mentions it. He just dismisses it out of hand.
Well, anyway, the thing the film convinced me, or revealed to me, which I hadn't realized at all, was that actually Abu Ghraib begins in Afghanistan. I haven't seen this in a while. I actually saw the DVD 10 months ago. But as I recall, the officer who was under whose auspices the torture took place in Afghanistan was then transferred to Iraq.
But everybody was transferred to Iraq. But yes, it did.
No, I think this was a pretty clear connection. Let me just tell you one anecdote relevant to this film as well. I suspect
the film is called Taxi to the Dark Side, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And it's coming out, any day now or something, right?
It's had its premiere.
Okay. Yeah. I saw it on DVD some months ago, but let me tell you something that happened to me years ago, probably before the Iraq invasion, after the Afghanistan invasion, and this just will tell you how much things have changed, and it may be that the person alluded to in this is the guy who is the central figure who was killed in Taxi to the Dark Side, okay? I was sitting in my car, I was listening to This American Life, okay? And this is before Abu Ghraib, before the Iraq invasion. And the person talking was somebody who had been a soldier in Afghanistan. An Afghan person had died while in the custody of American soldiers. And it was this guy's duty to go tell the family that this guy had died, okay?
Right.
And here's what I thought to myself. And just listen to how naive this sounds in retrospect, okay, given what we know now. But I maintain it was not a naive reaction of mine based on all of American history prior to that, okay? It's only naive in light of having lived through the Bush administration now. I remember thinking, what a terrible position to be in. To be the soldier has to go break this news to the family. they're naturally going to suspect that something untoward happened, okay, that he was tortured to death or you killed him on purpose, and you have no way of conveying to them that America doesn't do stuff like this. And if they were Americans, they would understand that, and it's true, and but you just can't quite cross the barrier and convey that to them. That's what I thought, okay, and what. I'll try to calm down now. I was about to get outraged.
Well, they didn't kill
Well, let me finish. What this administration has done is completely transform this country into one where you cannot feel feelings of pride like the one I felt.
They didn't kill this guy intentionally.
They just tortured him to death.
No, the argument is that they kept beating him.
It was just holding him up, tying his arms up to the ceiling and letting him dangle there for like a decade.
Bob, can you let me finish a sentence? That still doesn't mean they killed him intentionally. It means that they beat him and he died and they should have stopped. It still may be murder, but there's a difference between...
I didn't realize, naively, we were beating people up. I know you're in favor of it, because you're in favor of torture.
I'm not in favor of torture,
No,
Bob.
wait. Do you think it should be illegal?
I think, we should...
It's a yes or no question. Do you think it should be illegal?
It seems to me it should be illegal with a loophole at the top for the ticking time bomb exception.
So it should not be illegal across the board? I
just said my position, Bob.
Okay, so torture should be legal under some... It should be legal...
the same position. The only question is, in the ticking time bomb exception, do you want to make it illegal and be hypocritical and violate the law, or do you want to have an explicit loophole? That's the only issue. Otherwise, I'm completely signed on to the John McCain. We should agree to, we should not agree to a torture ban and not accept that the president can decide what's torture.
So it should be illegal except when it's legal.
Well, Bob, what do you do in the ticking time?
It should be legal across the board.
What do you do in the ticking time bomb exception?
If I'm in charge, and if I make the call that it's worth, it really would save America, we need to torture this guy, I should be ready to go to prison for it.
Well,
I might deem that the moral thing to do.
It seems to me that I favor making it illegal on grounds that. It's fine. I'm being hypocritical, and it's the tribute vice pays to virtue, and I know it's going to be disobeyed. I can also see the loophole. It doesn't seem to me that's a huge difference. I am not for torture. I'm not for torturing, except in that situation. And what the film does convince you of, is we think of defending waterboarding. Well, they've only waterboarded 3 or 4 people. What the film convinces you of is once you let loose a technique like that, there's a momentum that carries it to be used in more and more cases.
But it shouldn't be illegal.
Bob, I didn't say it shouldn't be illegal. It should be illegal except there's a ticking time bomb exception. Why can't you accept
And
that?
who defines the ticking time? And first of all, in the real world, Mickey, the ticking time bomb thing will never actually happen.
You should have some judge that decides it. I mean, there should be some independent authority. That's fine with me.
It will never actually happen.
Well, fine. Then it's not worth arguing about if it'll never actually happen. Then we should say it's banned.
Oh, well, no.
But we're agreeing. You're trying to fabricate some disagreement so you can somehow tar me as being pro-torture. I'm not pro-torture. All I'm saying is that there is this contradiction of everybody who says, "Oh, I'm against torture." Well, of course, in that case, I'll disobey the law. I don't think that's necessarily such a wonderfully moral position. I'm sorry. It seems to me.
Well, you believe in civil disobedience.
I believe in transparency and honesty.
You believe in civil disobedience. You believe there are times when one should intentionally violate laws,
yeah, but
right?
You don't write a law saying, "Oh, but I know that in this case I'm going to intentionally violate it." It seems to me that's sort of a cop-out.
No, I wouldn't write it that way.
It might be worth it for the PR advantages to the world. I agree.
Well, among other things, it's just strengthening the norm.
Speaking of PR advantages, there's this huge controversy over the destruction of these videotapes. The CIA apparently videotaped the interrogation of some of these prisoners, and they destroyed them despite the fact that there was apparently a court order from some lower court in some of the individual cases calling on the government to preserve all evidence of the people who might have implicated the individuals involved, who might have given the evidence under torture, and so their lawyers wanted to preserve the evidence. But it seems to me you have to accept that there's a huge argument that was the right thing to do, Because as with Abu Ghraib, we saw the power of images to turn the world against us. If you're worried about blowback in the Arab world, you want these tapes destroyed. And yet there seems to be no place in the judicial process to take that into account.
Well, it's a tough call, and you know, there are a lot of cases in life where, or in the law, where, you know, the short-term effect of doing something is bad, but the long-term effect may actually be good, or at least have some positive upside. I mean, you know, making an example is making cops read Miranda rights. If you believe that the Miranda rights should be read, you know, it's of course always regrettable if some guilty person gets let go because some cop failed to read the Miranda rights. But the question becomes, how else, you know, do you really nail cops on this and make sure that they will do it? That's an example. Now, I don't think this is as clear cut, but I would not dismiss the possibility that the way you keep these things from happening on a much more regular basis is transparency. Okay?
I think so. It's okay to inflame the Arab world for decades. In the long run, we will establish the rule of law. Well, under that basis, you can justify the Iraq War. Hey, it inflamed the Arab world for decades, but in the long run, it's going to set up a dynamic for democracy in the Middle East. You've never bought that argument before. Why are you buying it now?
First of all, I'm not saying...
Well, this isn't a case of one individual going free. It's a case of pissing off hundreds of millions of young Arab men, a certain small percentage, but significant percentage of which are going to become terrorists. And we don't want to do that. We don't want the pictures out there, so there's a reason to destroy them. And nobody, you know, people, if you read Slade, it's all about due process for these individuals and court orders and the rule of law. And there's no indication that there's this other interest involved. And when you bring it up, they say, oh, you're just being like John Yoo. Well, no, there should be some way to take this interest into account.
Well, first of all, I didn't say that I know that in this case the long-term good would outweigh the bad. I said it's a tough call, and that is a big question. But if you ask me what's the difference between that and the Iraq War, where there's supposed to be some long-term good consequence, I didn't believe there was going to be a long-term good consequence in Iraq. Did I say Iran or Iraq? In invading Iraq. I thought our policy had internal contradictions that were going to haunt us one way or another, A. B, I think the rule of law is a very important thing to foster and nourish. In the case of the videotapes, what I'm saying is in favor of supporting the rule of law. In the case of invading Iraq, if you take international law seriously, it's the opposite. Okay? Invading Iraq violates the law. So that's a pretty clear-cut difference.
Well, that's why I was against the invasion on technical, legalistic grounds. But
well, mine weren't technical and legalistic, but one of the many virtues of not invading would have been not violating a set of international laws and norms that it's in our interest to uphold.
It seems to me you are always very sensitive to the power of images. You don't want the Columbine killers shown. You don't want the Abu Ghraib photos shown. And now all of a sudden, hey, it seems to me you have to accept, as apparently you do, that there's a big argument that the best thing to do was to destroy these things so those images wouldn't get out either.
Mickey, I did not say I'm in favor. I did not take a position on this case. I said it's a tough call.
Okay. I'll declare victory with your saying it's a tough call.
Well, congratulations on
thank you
on intimidating me into repeating what I had said in the first place.
You'll be the first person I've intimidated in a long time.
So we're going to have to give up something I wanted to discuss.
Well, we were going to discuss group selection again, but it seems to me that's a hardy perennial.
It is.
Although the other one's a hardy perennial too. But I can make my point very quickly, okay?
Maybe there will be time for group selection. I doubt it. But you want to talk scandals. Not uncharacteristically, you want to talk about scandals.
I can make my point in 1 minute.
Okay.
I want to talk about, we had a discussion about scandal mongering, and I argue, the way the argument devolved, or evolved, I was saying, yes, well, by writing about this scandal, which I do not think is true, maybe I was adding like 1% fuel to the fire. The scandal had already been on the front page of Drudge, already been in the London Sunday Times. I conceded that maybe I was adding a little bit of fuel to the fire, but I had all these points to make, and I was weighing the value of these points against adding a little fuel to the fire of this possibly bogus rumor. But of course I missed the main argument, which is by by publicizing this rumor, you learn something. It's an investigative tool on the web. You immediately get emails from people who have this to add and that to add and that to add, and you find out the truth faster by making public a rumor that is possibly false. You find out that it is false. In this case, I found out independently that it's almost certainly false. But
after talking to me, you did?
After talking to you, yes. I just talk to people who know the woman involved and say that it's not true, and I tend to believe them.
And what benefit was derived from your having found out that it's false?
Well, I'm going to write something that says I think it is false. Why? Then the woman's that
Of course, the way rumors work, writing that it's false will probably do more to foster the rumor itself than just not writing anything.
I think the rumors out there writing that it's false will dissipate the rumor. Look, we're in a new world. The rumors are going to get out, and we have to be used to the fact to rumors being disproved, and that happens all the time.
Well, in any event, we actually, you were, as you wrote that, you were actually pretty convinced it was true.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, you were.
No, don't be silly. Go back and look at the dialogue. In fact,
I'll go back and reflect on the phone conversation we had afterwards.
I viewed it, Bob, and in fact, the assumption at one point is that it's false. So that's not true what you just said.
You told me on or off camera that you believed it was true.
No, I didn't. I never did that. I thought it was 50-50. I didn't do that.
Anyway, in that same exchange,
I think it's like 99-1. Go ahead.
In that same exchange, I was taken to task by commenters for something I said, which was something like, it was after you said what you said. You said, well, I mean, what does it matter what little old kausfiles says, compared to Drudge? And I said, well, we have whatever amount of influence we have, and we either use it conscientiously or we don't. And people took that as me saying, I am conscientious and you're not. Now, it's true that it might not take huge imagination to attach that inference to what I said, but the thrust of, and I'm sure I did feel self-righteous when I said it and should have suppressed that part of the reptilian or early mammalian part of my brain or whatever, but or early primate or late primate. But anyway, the main point was not that that I'm better than you, but that I really that defense of things really bothers me. The I don't have much influence defense just bothers me in general. In other words, if you say, well, Hollywood, moguls have a moral obligation not to let people smoke in their movies because they're role models in front of millions. But, I'm going to smoke in front of this kindergarten class because it's only 30 kids.
I understand.
I don't buy that, and that was the argument you seem to be making.
I understood. No, I'm saying that you would be. I completely accept your argument. We use whatever influence we have, and we're morally responsible for using it. If there was nothing on the other side, you would be right. But there is something on the other side. First, I thought I had something to contribute in discussing the issue involved mentioning this person's name. And second, it's an investigative tool that you get feedback from your readers, and the truth is found out faster that way than if you just suppress it and don't mention it at all. So they're powerful interests on the other side. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I maintain certain kinds of rumors, mentioning them at all is just going to have a net effect of spreading them, even if you claim it's going to in some way help satisfy you that they're not true. Secondly, the rumors, you really, your blog does a lot of sexual rumors. Sexual escapade rumors, sexual orientation rumors, whatever. Well, and those are the rumors that are among the most likely to be false, right? Because they're just powerful memes. Any allegation about something somebody does that's sexual is just a powerful meme. Regardless of whether it's true, it's just going to spread. So those are the rumors you should just be naturally suspicious of.
But they're also the classic rumors that get suppressed by the press, even though they're very important.
Yeah, well,
it was important that Bill Clinton screwed around on his wife, and therefore he was scared to challenge his wife on health care. It affected what happened to his health care bill, but people didn't report it until a couple years after the fact.
That leads to an interesting question, actually. Just to get briefly back to the campaign, I am pretty much persuaded by the, if you vote for Hillary, you get Hillary plus Bill.
Right.
In other words, they're a collective, a collectivity of political wisdom. For all we know, she had big influence on what he did as president. She will certainly have access to him. In any event, she observed everything that happened. She had at least as good a view as a vice president would have, and I count that as real experience.
Right.
But do you think there's any of the kind of George Bush Jr. Sr. dynamic where he wants to go to Baghdad precisely because his father didn't want to?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and I don't know enough about Hillary. That's the sense in which she's sort of a black box. Does she secretly resent Bill's, paternal advice, and is she going to go against him just to stick it to him? I don't know. She certainly, on healthcare, she certainly, on a couple of things where she disagrees with him, she seems to have had worse judgment than he's had. He certainly seems to be bolder than she is on welfare and, whether you should have competency tests for teachers. Those were his ideas, not her ideas. He claims now that she wanted to intervene in Rwanda and he didn't, and that she was right and he was wrong. I don't know what to make of that. But certainly, in the campaign, with the way she's gone about it, and the driver's license thing, and the various tactical decisions she's made, her judgment doesn't seem impeccable. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I increasingly, like I said, I'm feeling better about both her and Obama than before. But Edwards, I don't like.
And what's your problem with Edwards? I mean, it's probably the same.
He's a total lightweight on foreign policy. His advisors do not seem to inspire confidence in people whose judgment I respect in Washington. Would you buy a used car from this man? He seems to me to have the least relevant experience of all of them. I mean, being a trial lawyer may help you get elected president because you can give a good talk, but it ain't much like being president.
I agree completely. It's,
Don't like him. But I could be wrong.
We agree again.
We agree. This has been almost nonstop agreement.
Okay, well, we're through at the scandal point, so we have time for your little point.
Yeah, but I don't know. No, let's say we can say group selection.
Okay. There's always group selection.
There's always group selection. And tomorrow is another day.
It's like Godot. It'll show up sometime.
Yeah. So, okay, some things about the redesign that we hope will appear within a matter of mere hours after this is posted. Okay?
I can't wait.
You shouldn't be able to wait. Actually, first of all, wait. One quick comment.
Let's make sure that I don't know any of this. So.
What's that? No, you don't know.
So I'm learning this for the first time.
You've seen it in early beta, I think. I don't know how recently you've seen it, though.
I haven't seen it.
It gets more beautiful by the day.
I have not seen it.
I will say there's nothing like a redesign in life. I mean, you just don't know until you've been through it. It's like, when you put an addition on a house, any kind of addition of any magnitude, and I've only done the smallest one, you realize how many decisions have to be made to do any construction project of any magnitude. But this is so much worse than that, because all the decisions you have to make for a housing addition, you could in theory envision if you really sat down with the paper and the architect, Whereas when you're building a site that's not quite like one that's ever been built, every feature you implement, unless you are God himself and are omniscient, it's just hard you can't anticipate the consequences that's going to have. And in fact, the one regrettable thing very recently discovered is that the expand screen function that was briefly with us with Flash when we introduced Flash, expanding the screen to the full compass of your computer screen is not going to be with us for a while, like at least a month, because it conflicted with some other thing and that's the way it is. It's just amazing. There's always more. And for that reason, there's uncertainty even as we speak, Mickey, about when this will happen.
This has been incredibly moving, and I have tremendous sympathy for the burdens of a CEO, but let's have some information.
Well, and shouldn't I laud the many people other than the CEO who actually were in the trenches?
Sure.
I should.
But I thought you were going to like tell us what to expect and warn us that certain things were not going to work and tell our many commenters how they're going to comment, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm going to do that. Oh, but
Okay.
that reminds me. I don't know the answer to one of those questions. But wait. First, let me laud the people. Okay? Milton Lawson was kind of at the heart of the thing. And you don't know Milton.
No.
But he was in the trenches day in, day out. Deserves a medal.
Right.
And by the way, he's moving to Austin. If any of our viewers live in Austin and want to help him find an apartment or something, they should email us. Great guy. Brenda Talbot was kind of overseeing the whole thing. Got to know programmers on various continents as a result. Even small companies exploit globalization. There were some long hours. I encouraged her to neglect her husband and children as necessary, and I'm happy to say she complied. Greg Dingle, you know Greg Dinglink?
Greg, he's become a shadowy god figure.
Yeah. He is a god like that. In fact, he had this Olympian view of the whole thing and would perform a miracle when necessary. And Brian Degenhardt, you've dealt with. He's our production manager.
Brian, yes.
He helped out when necessary, and for that matter, deserves a medal for his ongoing day-to-day efforts to just get the thing out. He's lost a certain amount of sleep so that you can show up on the big screen, Mickey, you and other people. Sean Gibby, who you know, it was not her main thing. It was not part of her normal task set, but she helped out in characteristically selfless fashion. There was no single designer really, but Harriet Gorin, our current design consultant, helped put the finishing touches on, but is not responsible for the look because, of course,
you meddled.
I meddled. Peter Flashner helped us out early on, and that's the role of.
What about Rob Law's question? Why can't you just use iChat?
Use what?
There's this new program in Apple's Leopard operating system called iChat, where you can talk to somebody and you have a little picture of them, so I could in fact see you while I'm talking, which I can't now. So haven't you been surpassed by Apple? What's the answer to that?
Well, you can do the stuff over the internet, but the video quality is much worse unless you have studio-like conditions. That's where that's where this is heading. I mean, I would imagine in a year or two, when everyone has great upload speeds in particular, which you see is the bottleneck. It's the upload speed, and people don't realize that their upload speeds are usually much worse than their download speeds.
I never did.
Yeah, right. Well, if you look at the stuff that's typically produced through over-the-internet techniques, it looks like from Apollo 11.
Huh.
It really does. Unless, if you kind of get people in the equivalent of a studio almost, you can beat that.
Huh.
But we'll be. That's where we'll be. Okay. Someday when the quality of that is better.
I look forward to that.
It's going to be a wonderful day. What should I say about the redesign? There is this period when the comment section forum will have to be closed. We're moving to a new forum. There are going to be instructions for how. I mean, we can't automatically move the registrations of forum users to the new forum because the passwords were encrypted, which means we don't even know what they were. Okay, there's something they have to do. I think they'll either get an email and have to reply, or we'll send an email. But that is on the home page of the. Well, I'll try to get it in, even if you're looking at this while it's still in green. I'll try to get instructions on the home page in that little blog space in the middle, and certainly on the new design, a link to that will be on the home page in the upper left under local news. I don't know. I hope people like it. It's there has been a lot of work has gone into this. I will say that. And I think it's by and large pretty cool. You know, there are things I would still fiddle with, and there are things we will fiddle with, and there will be bugs. And if people report them to support at bloggingheads.tv, we would appreciate it if they included their browser model and you know, number. Like, oh, that reminds me. By and large, Firefox will there's a couple of things Firefox will do better with than Internet Explorer. Probably neither will be apparent to you. You won't know what you're missing, kind of, in terms of functionality. But if you're on Windows and you can download Firefox, in the near term, you'll probably have slightly better luck. Yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that. You still there?
I'm still here. Took a little nap.
Yeah, well,
but that was fascinating.
Hey, man, if you had been living through this, you'd almost be getting misty-eyed right now.
It's like childbirth.
It is like childbirth, and except it's like your previous child has to die. I'm a little, you know, I'll be a little nostalgic about the old site. I think it had, as homemade things go, that you just sketch out on a piece of paper without the help of any designer. I thought it had its virtues.
Maybe it'll be like Windows XP, and this new site will be like Windows Vista, and everybody will hate it, and they'll want to go back to Windows XP.
Thanks for sharing that thought, Mickey.
Have you seen the ads that Apple's running on Slate? They're fantastic.
The ones where it's up in lights, it says...
Where Hodgman, yes.
Yeah, those, I saw them on the Wall Street Journal. Those are pretty funny.
Yes, they're semi-devastating, I thought. It's rare that you see a company be that nasty.
No, I know. Apple has broken new ground in terms of calling names, no doubt about it. Yeah. But, you know, Microsoft kind of brought it on itself.
Although, isn't Bill Gates the biggest stockholder in Apple? I think Microsoft owns a huge...
He may be the biggest non-Steve Jobs.
Non-Steve Jobs stock.
I don't think he's... I don't know, maybe. But apparently he's not big enough to influence their advertising strategy.
It just seems to be every time when Slate was owned by Microsoft, there was always you always got the impression that there's a huge hemorrhage of talent from this place. Everybody's taking their buyouts and leaving. Who do they have to write the programs anymore? And my crude view is we're seeing the fruits of that. They produced a program and it's a turkey. But
yeah, it's kind of a no. It's a long. They never had a great. I mean, good design. I shouldn't say this because I'm sure there will be criticisms of the new design. But good functional design is almost like a moral challenge in the sense that it requires you to put yourself in the shoes of somebody unlike yourself. It's like, hey, suppose this software was being used by somebody who didn't write it, like me, you know? And the fact is, just time after time after time, Apple has been better at putting themselves in the shoes of other people and anticipating what it's like to be a user. I mean, I have my issues with Steve Jobs' design sensibility, but he occasionally sacrifices functionality to aesthetics. But Microsoft has just never had that. I don't know, you know.
So we shouldn't expect a sleek Apple-like design of the new site.
Well, we don't. We you know, no. I mean, those regrets I have. In the end, you know, if you're not a huge company with huge resources and you don't have infinite time and so on, you ultimately make some compromises. I'm very proud of it, though, and I think it's a huge advance and will let us do more things than people realize in terms of new content and more content. But it's tough, and there will be bugs at first. And I don't know if I mentioned, the comment section will be out and out. This will be on the site, but it will be out and out shut down for, we hope, just, you know, an hour or two while the migration of the old comments to the new system happens, we hope.
This has all been fascinating.
Yeah.
Anyway, I look forward to the result. I think.
So you want to leave? You don't want to sit here and just bathe in the festivity of it all. I'm not getting off. I'm sorry, Mickey. I refuse.
What?
I want to bask in the glory of the redesign.
That was the huge setup for a filthy comeback, Bob. But
what? Go ahead. Well, we can maybe cut it, maybe not, but go ahead.
No, you just said you're not getting off.
Oh,
never mind.
Boy, I'll tell you, it took the mind it took to find sexual innuendo into an innocent remark like that. I don't know. I wouldn't be proud. Hey, speaking of which,
when people get bored enough, they get desperate.
Speaking of which, Mickey.
Yes.
Now, we shouldn't do a dueling moose thing, should we?
No.
You sure?
I'm sure. I think we should get off.
Okay.
Let these people go on with their lives.
Okay. It's just that I noticed something about your moose, and I won't comment on it. When I saw it last time when you held it up the screen.
Yeah.
I won't say it. Never mind.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. It's probably what everybody's saying about you, Moose Man. Sorry.
Yeah. It's lucky nobody's watching. That's all.
Listen, Mickey, I got to run. Okay, I got to put the finishing touches on the redesign.
Cool.
We'll see you soon. Oh, wait a second. You know, are you going to do one with your brother? Or he indicated recently he'd be game if you were man enough.
You know, it seems to me we have arguments that are loud, but ultimately we agree, not unlike ours. Well, I don't know how much fun they would be. But
so you don't want to do one?
I'll do one with him, sure, but
you will.
But eventually. But you're trying to rope me into like doing one every week.
No, just do one.
Anyway.
So you'll do one with him soon?
I'm happy to do one with him soon. Anyway, Roblog is easy because he just babbles a mile a minute and entertains, and you really have to do no work at all.
And doesn't disagree with you because he's a conservative.
I would actually have to argue back, yes.
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Or else my honor would be,
Whatever. I will see you in the sea of green briefly, and then I'll see you in a very different environment.
Okay, but I'm happy to do it, yes.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, I tend to lose the arguments with him in private. That's the problem.
All the better.
Okay.
All right.
See ya.
See you around.